thundering now. A song of hope from sons and daughters crying out.
Hi, and welcome to Every Nation Campus Ghent. We're gonna have a dinner talk tonight. Before we do that, I hope you are all doing well. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so glad to see you again. I hope you have been enjoying the nice weather, and if you have exams, well, I hope you have been studying. I hope you've been feeling productive and that you found creative solutions around all the challenges that you might have during the season. Now, before we start with the dinner talk, let me quickly explain how we're going to do this tonight. We are first going to have a short live stream from about 20 minutes, and then we'll have a Zoom call where we'll actually have the discussion and the Q&A and also fun games. We'll have some icebreakers tonight as well. So I hope you'll join us for that. The Zoom link is in the description in the YouTube video. That Zoom link will be removed afterwards again. But you can feel free to join us there, and we love to welcome you and to see you there. Now, we've been talking about our series, Let Your Anchor Down. And well, Let Your Anchor Down, I don't know if you know this, but an anchor actually stands for hope. And hope here in the old yeah, older days, you see that they didn't use anchors that were just iron. No, they actually used stone anchors, heavy brick fall down stone anchors that you would like they were really heavy. So when you let them down and fall into the water, then well, a boat would literally be fixed still to the ground, and you will almost not um, get them up yet. So what are we going to talk about tonight? I'm not going to talk about boats. I'm not going to talk a whole evening about anchors, but I'm going to talk about, yeah, I'm going to talk about hope in the midst of disappointment, in the midst of life. Because the reality is, we are living life, you and I, and life sometimes throws curveballs at you. So let's start, shall we? Now, so I want to talk hope in the midst of disappointment and the reality of life. I already said that. So if you don't know a dinner talk, normally in real life, if it would not be online like we have to do right now, we would actually have dinner together first. Then we would have like an icebreaker sort of thing. And then we would actually discuss a hot topic or a relevant topic. So there would be a lot of interaction. Think about 20 to 25 people together around the table. Tonight we'll do that here, the part on the live, and then part on the Zoom. So we've had to split that up. It's not really a dinner talk, but it's an online dinner talk. So I want to start with asking you the question, how can we have hope even if the reality is different than what we actually wanted? Because I mean, that's life for you, isn't it? We have realities that we have to deal with that are not necessarily what we wanted. Now, how are we dealing with that? We are dealing with that, and suddenly there is a Zoom thing appearing on my screen. We are dealing with that in different ways. Now, Charles Snyder, he's a psychologist. In a publication of his in 2002, he says, a rainbow is a prism that sends shards of multicolored light in various directions. It lifts our spirits and makes us think of what is possible. Hope is the same, a personal rainbow of the mind. Lopez, Dr. Lopez, he's a scientist and he does research for Gallup. I don't know if you know Gallup, but Gallup is pretty big on leadership and self and development and employment. And they have written StrengthsFinder, for so to speak. And he states, hope is like oxygen. We can't live without hope. Charles Snyder in 1991 says, hope is a positive cognitive state based on a sense of successful, goal-directed determination and planning to meet those goals. So he gives a very specific definition of what actually hope is. Now, that's what is being used in psychology. Hope does not necessarily fade in the face of adversity. In fact, hope often endures despite poverty, war, famine. While no one is exempt from experiencing challenging life events, hope fosters an orientation to life that allows a grounded and optimistic outlook even in the most challenging of circumstances. So hope you can have despite and even in the circumstances. Think about persecution. Think about circumstances, well, that some of us might not even know or have realized yet. But we all have our own circumstances where life throws us a curveball, where we're out of our game, where we are despairing or hopeless. You might have lost someone and that might have brought you in a situation like that because it was very unexpected. Or you might suddenly be in financial problems and facing financial difficulties, and that might cause such a situation for you. And I want to tell you today, according to these psychologists, we can even have hope in those circumstances. I want to look with you, how is that possible? And what is the difference between hope and optimism, hope and wishful thinking? And we're going to look in how does this actually work into our life, or how can it work into our life? Now, the benefits of hope. My slides are completely out of order, apparently. This is the one. Hope and optimism. Both assume good things. So both optimism and hope leave from good things in life. Life will have good things for you. Nice. I want good things in my life. But optimism is a positive attitude about the future. So it's an attitude. That's the first. Optimist expects that life will work out well and as expected. Now that's an important note to take because there's no guarantee that life is going to work out well. You don't know what's in the future. You don't have a glass bowl. You can't have that expectation because it's unrealistic unless you're going to know what's going to happen very soon in the future. So the optimist expects that life will work out well and as expected. So according to his expectations. For that, he already needs to have clarity on his expectations towards life. Now, and then life needs to fill those expectations in because otherwise that wouldn't work. That's optimism. Now, being hopeful is regarded as more realistic. Now, hopeful people, they assume that life may not work out as planned. Yet, they have a positive expectancy directed towards possible outcomes that hold personal significance. So they have, even though they assume life may not work out as expected, so they're not putting their expectations on that. They're more realistic. But they do have a positive expectancy directed towards possible outcomes. In Dutch, meervoud, there's an S on the end of the word. So they take into account that outcomes might differ. They might not just be what they want, but they still have a positive expectancy directed towards them. And that holds personal significance for them. Lopez from Gallup again says, you think your future will be better than today, but hope is both the belief in a better future and the action to make it happen. So, on optimism versus hope, you think your future will be better than today. That's the optimist. But hope is both the belief in a better future and the action to make it happen. Now, if we look into hope and wishful thinking, we see that wishful thinking is a want or a desire for the future. It is ambiguous and passive. It does not involve a plan of change to accomplish change and growth. It is ambiguous and passive. People tend to wish for what they want, but there is little to no possibility for them to actually have that or for that to actually occur. For example, I would want 3 cars, a Lamborghini, a Porsche, and I don't know, something else, a Defender. I'm not a cars person for those who are watching, but that for me is currently wishful thinking because, first of all, why would I need 3 cars? Secondly, then I need to upskill my income majorly to actually make that happen. So that might be a desire of mine, but it's right now very unrealistic. It's a very ambiguous and passive desire. Hope is a solid commitment to seeking future outcomes. It's an active process. That means you need to make a goal, you need to have agencies, and you need to have action and plans in place to make it happen. So it's not just based on this is something that I want to happen. We often use the word hope in sentence like, oh, I really hope for, I hope I'm getting a new iPhone 10 for my birthday. Top, I can hope for that, but that is more of a desire than a hope. It's actually pretty low outcome that I'm actually going to get that. Now, hope is a solid commitment. It's a commitment. Takes action to seeking future outcomes. Goals, agencies, action, and plans. Now, what are the benefits of hope? We see in research that hope is correlated with both academic and athletic performances. So students with more hope would have superior performances. There also has been research done in the LSATs in the States, for example, and where they sought after or researched the effect of hope and optimism on actually the chances of students getting to the LSATs. And the more hope infused they were, the more hope they had, the bigger their scores on the LSATs. So it's both improving not just your athletic performances, but also your academic performances. And one of those reasons is because it's an active thing, hope. Now, hope is correlated with greater physical and psychological well-being. So we see in research that has been done and studies that have been done that, for example, people that have more hope will complain less of pain, will have less pain, are less likely to actually start having physical problems very quickly, are less likely to have depression, anxiety, or mental health issues, to actually be lonely, or to have no longer perspective on life. And then the physical health issues, that consequences that follow out of that, are also a lot less. But they say that they have a lot more well-being, both physical and psychological. And they also see that in, for example, treating people with illnesses, even with incurable diseases like cancer, they see that people that have hope, not optimism, not desire, but hope, which is both realistic but also takes action and looks into a preferred future, they see that those people have better chances of improving, of having a longer life, or actually being well while they're suffering from that. So we see that that has a psychological very good influence. And that people that have no hope and that really despair in situations like that, which I mean, I understand, having been there myself, but you see that they tend to progress a lot quicker in their disease, but also that they, for example, would lose the joy and expectancy of life even while they're experiencing physical issues. Hope is correlated with improved self-esteem and enhanced interpersonal relationships. So hope always goes hand in hand with your support system and your environment. And those play a crucial role in the amount of hope you have. People without hope, or that are hopeless, are much more prone to loneliness and to self-isolation. And we see that happening as well there. Hopeful people are also more likely to view stressful situations as challenging, whereas people with little hope see the situations as much more threatening. Now, hope is a protective factor against the development of chronic anxiety. So it's one of those mental illnesses or mental issues that I noticed or that we researched. Hope is a motivational factor that helps initiate and sustain action toward long-term goals and positive involvement in life regardless limitations or challenges. So life can throw you curveballs, but it's a motivational factor, if you have hope, for you to be able to help initiate and sustain those actions, be active partaker in life and in your own personal long-term goals and just your general involvement in life. And we see that high hope college students were more likely to graduate than their low hope counterparts. So we see overall it's adding to the life satisfaction. Now, if we look into what emotions and hope together do, we see that experiences and emotions can actually threaten hope. And I want to encourage you today, according to research, and I've applied this to my own life as well, you can see that certain experiences we can experience as so negative. But on an experience, we are in a situation, we form an emotion. And what we do with that emotion will determine which belief system we form on that. And that will determine our future behavior. So let's say we are in a situation where we fail an exam. Your emotion with that is, I failed, I'm sad, I'm grieving, I'm angry, and I feel disappointed. Now, what you do at that point with that emotion is actually going to determine how you are going to behave in that next exam. or the next time you have to go to that specific exam, for example. So if you say, oh, I'm a failure, I'm a suck up, I'm never gonna make it, I can't do this, and you spiral like that, you're sucking all the hope out of it. So in that way, that experience and that emotion can threaten the hope. Now, if you ponder and you think and you worry and you think and rethink those emotions a lot, those negative emotions, what you'll get is that you're gonna suddenly start to believe like, I can't do this, and it's gonna take the hope for that specific area, your goals away, your motivation away. So it's your job, it's our job to actually say at that point, okay, stop, pause, take a step back, and I am gonna start to rethink the emotions. I'm gonna reflect and recognize on them. So firstly, you recognize them, then you reflect on, okay, where do they come from? What information are they giving me? How much out of proportion or in proportion are the emotions that I'm feeling according to the situation? What can I learn about myself in this situation? What can I learn through these emotions? And by just stopping and starting to just recognize, do not run away from the feelings, recognize them, admit them. Don't go into denial where we want to pause feelings. Especially feelings that kind of leave us feeling uncomfortable, that we're like, we don't know how to deal with them, then we run away from them. We actually need to embrace and recognize them, not sulk in them, but recognize them and then start asking questions, because feelings and emotions, they give information. And then after you've asked the questions, then you can say, okay, I'm going to safely feel all my feelings and then discharge them safely and completely by, for example, going for a run or boxing on a boxing ball. Do it in a safe way for yourself and for others, but emotions can be discharged and should be discharged. You should not be storing them up on the inside, because otherwise they will threaten hope over and over again, because they keep coming up and you keep behaving out of them. Now, support is also a critical factor in the development of hope. We see that our support system is able to give us a lot of hope or to take that away. Now, as your support system grows and your safety and your trust grows in there, whenever you feel that your hope is threatened or that you don't know how to proceed with your goals in life, for example, you have a support system that is encouraging you forward. And we see in a research done at the University in Utrecht that people or students that were encouraged with hope before their exams, for example, you can do this, you want to do this, you want to do these exams, you want to do this course, you want to become this, so this is your goal and you have the ability to do so, and you're straightly giving them hope. In that research, they were straightly giving them hope right before exams and assignments they had to do. And the outcome of the research was that the students that had more hope were much more likely to actually succeed in that. Now, that hope infusion came through a support system, which in this case were researchers and the school, but it came through a support system, and it was done at critical moments before specific tasks. So in that we can see that support is a critical factor in the development of hope. Even just today, I was like, I'm really struggling with my technology, and I called a friend today and I was like, I'm struggling with this, and she just took 5 minutes to talk me through very reasonably, okay, how can we make the goal for tonight, the dinner talk, happen? And well, here we are. Other than the slides, it's going okay so far. Now, your support system is a critical factor in the development of hope. Now, hopeful people share 4 core beliefs. The future will be better than the present. I have the power to make it so. There are many paths to my goal, and none of them is free of obstacles. Now, I think those 4, none of us like obstacles. None of us do. There are many paths to my goals. That is one we need to remember, or I at least need to remember, because I often think there's only one road to that leads to where I want to go, and I want to take the quickest one and the most efficient one. We all want that, but it might not be the best road for you. You just have to take one and start. It doesn't matter how you. It doesn't always matter how you get there, or like which road you choose to take, but it matters what you learn on the way to your goal, and that you actually reach your goal. I have the power to make it so. Without hope, we tend to feel powerless. And the moment we start feeling powerless, that means we are not in control. Now, hope means that even when you're feeling like you're not in control, let's say someone in your nearby family dies, or you have no control over this COVID-19 situation, lockdown, and how the exams are going to happen now. You just have to do them anyway. So you have no control over that. But yet, in that, someone with hope will say, I have the power to make it so. I have the power to reach or to get where I want to get in life. I have the power to get to what I'm hoping for. And even within a situation where you at first would say, I have no control over these things, and there are a lot of circumstances in life where we have no control over. But within that circumstance, there is an area in life where I still have the power to change things, and that I still have the power to influence and to control certain things. And it is the first thing that I can control is myself. After I've recognized my feelings, even in a disappointment and in anger and grief and loss, or in a situation where I'm just super frustrated, after I've dealt with my feelings, I need to go sit down and regroup, replan, and re-strategize. Because there are multiple ways. And because I need to get back control over my life, over myself, over my emotions. I need to see again that I'm in control. I have the power to do things. And then you see and you have an assumption that the future, a belief that the future will be better than the present. Now, after you've planned and you regrouped and you re-strategized, and you might need to make new goals, you might need to change direction completely. For example, a boyfriend, you were in a long relationship and he broke up with you. You might need to make new goals and new plans, and that might actually be a good thing. But the important thing is that you see the opportunity. You see also the challenges, because hope is realistic. But you also see the opportunity, and you again make that plan and take that action towards getting there. Now, hopeful people pick good goals. They know how to make them happen, and they spot and seek out the pathways that will move them forward. It's an intentional thing. Now, I want to end this quickly with, or shortly, with hope and the gospel. What do the different worldviews have to say about hope? And now I want to keep this short, so I do not have the time to go into every single one of them. But I want to see how hope and the gospel relate to each other. Now, firstly, I also recognize that not all of you might know what I mean with the gospel. So the gospel is actually the gospels are the four first books of the Bible. And the gospel is basically the central message of the Bible, where Jesus died on the cross about 2,000 years ago, and then after 3 days rose again from the dead. And he did that because he was God, and he became God in man. He lived the perfect life that we should have lived, in a perfect relationship with God, in where he had harmony with God, where he lived without being disobedient to his God, but without breaking relationship with God. Because most of us, we have broken relationship with God, and we live in that brokenness. Now, Jesus, because he was God becoming man here on earth, he could be the first to actually restore that and to live a life in perfect relationship with God. Now, he died the death that we should have died in our place. On the cross, he died a horrific death, but he didn't stay dead. 3 days later, he rose from the dead, proving he was the Son of God. Now, raising from the dead is a supernatural thing, and with that, there is historical evidence for that. It proved that he was a son of God. But the reason why he died is so that we could have a restored relationship with God. And if we accept Jesus into our lives, we can actually have a relationship with God and eternal life. So your eternity is going to be spent with God now. Whereas otherwise, it's going to be an eternity without God. But we see that there is now also forgiveness and new chances and new mercies, and God's goodness suddenly becomes available for us. Now, you might ask, what does that have to do with hope? Well, hope and the gospel. Jesus accomplished hope for us at the cross. And I'm not just talking about an eternal life hope, kind of hope, like there is life after death, because Jesus definitely did that. So that's already a first. But secondly, to that, when we make mistakes, and we all make mistakes, we all take the wrong routes, we all make sometimes wrong decisions, we get disappointed, angry, we act out of our emotions, and then we do things that we're sorry about or that we regret later on. Now, what we see in the Bible and in the gospel is that making mistakes and even being rebellious or doing things that God doesn't necessarily like, that is actually now, well, it's not okay, but there is forgiveness. And there is forgiveness and repentance. And repentance means that you turn away from that thing that you were first looking to and you turn back to God. Now, when we do that, there are new chances and opportunities that God gives every day. And the Bible calls it new mercies. Now, secondly, the moment you accept Jesus in your life and you say, like, I really believe in Jesus. I believe that he lived the life that I should have lived. He died on the cross for me because he loved me and because he wants me to have a relationship with God. Then what happens is that God places you in a support system, I've called it here. Because we've been talking about the support system so far. The Bible calls it family. And they call God a father. And he created us, he created you, and he wants to know you and you to know him. And he wants you to belong to his family, a loving family. He's a loving, good father. But that's not just that, because, I mean, God is not, well, he's here, but, I mean, is he walking next to me right now? God actually also places you in a family already now. If the moment you accept Jesus, or even when you haven't accepted Jesus yet, you can go to a church. And they are like a spiritual family because they believe in the same thing. And we can call God Father. So everyone who does, that's kind of now a spiritual family, a spiritual community, so to say. And, well, since it's not a structure, it's a worldwide big thing, but it can be a support system for you. It has been for me. Towards the most hard seasons of my life, I was in that support system. And they helped me get through uni. They helped me get through my depressions. They helped me move out. And they were a support system that encouraged me to hope. Not just have hope for life and specific things and goals and action plans, but also to have hope for the rest of my life, eternity. And I can know for sure that, like I said here a few slides ago, I can hope and know that the future will be better than the present because I have the steadfast hope in the gospel that's never changing, but that's eternal. Now, I also want you to know that you can hope because God has a purpose for your life. He has a specific purpose for your life. He has created you, and he has created you with good things for you to do. And like, you can set goals with him, you can dream with him, and God can give you much more greater things and dreams than you could ever dream about yourself. So I want to encourage you, go to God, set goals with him. And God gives you the tools to put them into action. God is a good God. And we sometimes say that God equips the called, but matter is, everyone has a purpose. Everyone is called to something. And God wants you to get equipped. And in God's goodness and in his grace and mercy, he puts you in environments where that's made available. And if that's not possible, he himself will make sure that you have the tools by His goodness and His grace and His blessings for your life to walk that out. And He Himself, because He is that person, we can have that hope in His goodness. It's not just a fleeting hope and a specific goal that I might not be able to reach, but it adds an extra component of I hope in a God that is never changing, that is eternal, and that I know is loving and good. Now, it brings a new perspective. And today I want to invite you to come and talk with us about all of this in our Q&A and conversation on the Zoom link. You can find the Zoom link in the bio. I would love for you to join and maybe even bring your friends, and I hope to see you soon again. Bye!